Make larger gains in crypto by following these bits of personal advice I'm going to outline in today's video. Now, this advice is coming off the back of the mistakes I made in the 21/2022 bull market that will optimize your returns in the upcoming bull market. And I know all too well how easy it is to dismiss this information because I had to go through the hard yards and actually learn the hard way myself because I just simply ignored the personal advice from people like myself in my current position. Now, I want to say, guys, this video is going to be structured from advice ranking from important right up to do or die and everything in between. So with that said, let's begin. So bear with me, the most important rule of all, or at least bit of advice, I'm going to actually take you through step by step on the computer and show you how to actually go ahead and do it. But for the first few, I'm going to actually just tell you because it's pretty simple to follow. I'm not going to waste any of your time, of course. And the first is follow the narratives and also the uniqueness of the projects first. Now, this is important because ultimately when you want to find a good project, right, it's the sea of cryptocurrencies. There's like 25,000 and growing every single day. So you have to find the ones that A, you're interested in, and B, that actually, beat the competitors in that particular narrative. So for example, a narrative is gaming, oracles, DeFi, layer 1, layer 2, things like that. Once you know your narrative and you've assessed how good it's going to perform in the upcoming bull market, or at least from previous sort of bull markets or surges in that particular narrative, you can then begin to find the projects within those particular narratives itself. And the way I like to do that is based on uniqueness, or another word we can use here is the meme, okay? Boil down the USP. What actually is the product doing differently to the other products in that narrative, okay? So for a layer 1, we have the WE test. Is it WebAssembly state machine, interoperable, instant finality? Is it infinitely scalable? And is it EVM compatible? Outside of those things for layer 1 networks, what is it that it does that other networks don't do? And that boiled down is what you have to chase after and focus your attention on, because that is the point of difference businesses and enterprises or Web3 businesses want to come in and use that particular product, okay? So that, of course, is step 1. Number 2 is serious, okay? We're getting more serious, quite literally. Now, this one is going to be holding stable coins, and I know this might seem extremely trivial to a lot of you guys, and this was something I really struggled with in the bull market, really hard. And even in the bear market, what I know now, it's actually harder for me to not buy, right? But of breaking the barrier. Essentially, it is critical, guys. It's actually serious that you don't go ahead and buy every single dip that comes about. In my personal opinion, if Bitcoin's 10% down or around about 10%, probably down to about 8% on the weekly, and you check your altcoins and they're down a significant amount to where actually buying in is at a very good discount, that is the sort of narrative I tend to follow, or the dollar cost average strategy. Now, on the contrary, a lot of people do follow a more strict DCA strategy, that's dollar cost averaging, where they ladder sell or ladder buy rather down just, weekly. It doesn't matter what's happening, or daily. Some people do it crazily daily. Some people do it monthly. I don't really see people doing it more than monthly, but you can have a strict day or time you do this. The obvious bad thing is if you end up buying on a Friday or a Saturday, that might be a very good day in the market. And then if you just waited 2 more days, you could have got maybe a 10-20% discount. That is the sort of negative side of that, an inferior strategy because of that. But hey, each to their own. I've done both. Next up is critical, and that is follow a predetermined ladder sell strategy. This is, again, it's critical at this point, but it's so important, really is, guys, because when you're in the midst of a bull market, when the prices are surging up, it is so easy to neglect any sort of strategy you had before and just go, hey, I'm going to completely go off the feel of the market. And what happens then? Well, you're going to get complacent, and when you get complacent, you lose money. Take it from me. It sounds so trivial, as I said before. You might go to bed one night because crypto is 24/7. As they say, a year on crypto is like a decade in the real markets. You're going to go to bed, wake up, and then you're going to have 10, 20, 30% down. You just never know, okay? Anything could happen. It is crypto, it is life. So when you follow a predetermined sell strategy, this means that when you buy into a cryptocurrency, my philosophy is you figure out the buy and the sell levels. This doesn't give you an indication on when to sell, but this also helps you on whether you want to actually buy the project in general, okay? Because it might not hit your multiplier limit, or at least minimum, okay? And so when you create a strategy for ladder selling, this is going to always change. As the bull market takes off, things change. It's life. That's like just price predictions, okay? The market's going to go up a certain amount, it's going to go down a certain amount. Your project individually might break away at some point because of certain news. Things change. And so when things change, so does your strategy, okay? So what I'm going to propose, and what I typically do, is every single month, I'll reanalyze how my project's doing. Now, luckily for us, it's pretty breezy in a bear market. You don't really have to do this. You kind of start off with that buy and sell level and you kind of go off that. But when things ramp up, you might want to do that on the weekly. That's like max, okay? If you're crazy, you might do it every couple of days. I've never done that before. or every couple weeks, which is genuinely what I typically do. Okay, so every couple of weeks when the bull market's really peaking up, especially towards the blow off top, or when, you know, there's a whole lot of hype, what I'll typically do is just go, okay, what's happening here? Am I going to take some profits? You know, am I going to hold 10%? I'll just reassess and ask myself this question. Like, this literally doesn't have to be any more than an hour or two out of your month or out of your fortnight. It really is that simple, guys. And I always tell people, you know, sometimes just having a pen and paper in front of you in a quiet room is all you need. And next up, it's veteran. Now, the reason why this is veteran and most experienced crypto enthusiasts or investors in the space will follow this is simply because they understand what can come from this. I'm going to touch on more in that in the next part. But essentially, what I'm saying with partnerships here is you want to know intimately who these people are partnered with. Are they under NDA agreements? Because if you know there are NDA agreements, apparent NDA agreements, again, that's very, that can be quite sus. I don't typically like to follow NDA stuff, but if they are, you can be prepared for an eventual announcement that they are working together, okay? Sometimes it fizzles out and that's a bad thing, of course. But on the other side of things, you know, if there's anything props up, you know who the partners are, you know the market then, you know where things are and what they're doing essentially, okay? And this is like, you can look at Hedera Hashgraph for an example. You could look at the partners for a very, very long time in this case. On the other side of it, you might have Quant Network where the partners are very limited, but there's going to be a lot more because a lot of it is white label service, meaning that we just simply don't know the extent of their partners. So you have to obviously work with what you have. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it doesn't. But as you do this, the tech you can kind of leave aside, right? If you're not really as an enthusiast in the space, that kind of can come last. You have to know basics, but that's fine. What is more important is the gravity of what they're doing in their partnerships and the kind of their foothold in that particular market, aka are they disrupting it? So by far, this is definitely number 2 on the list in terms of the highest, most important stuff to look at. Okay, so the next one obviously is do or die, and this is going to be news. Now, particularly if you're an armchair investor who is someone that doesn't really take an active stance in the market, you're more a relaxed, you buy, you check it every now and again, you're not really too concerned with, you know, this is not your life essentially, right? Well, this is kind of for you, and this is why it's important for everyone to do, and that's news, right? And it does complement the previous, you know, focus on the partnerships or connections point, because if you know the connections of the project, when the news comes out pertaining to anything, it might be nothing to do with a certain partner, you know the gravity of the situation. Again, I like to use Quant because this really opened my eyes up recently to it, okay? When Quant recently announced that they're working with the Bank of International Settlements, they, you know, named UST, one of their partners, as heavily involved as much as Quant in this system, and it makes total sense. And so knowing the partnership, okay, beforehand, it makes the news ever so more real, okay? And obviously, if it's more vague, you can put the pieces together pretty quickly. So what I would do if I was you is to create a new Twitter account, fresh, because you don't want to be mixing up news with, or the news be pushed down by someone announcing they're getting married or being pregnant, okay? You don't want that sort of stuff. You want pure crypto in here, and you want to follow every single, you know, first party source, okay? The projects themselves, obviously. But I'm going to urge you to do one thing more, okay? And that's going to be finding at least one. Now, I'd like to say at least 2, but you can do at least one third party source, someone who has a focus or an energy focused within the project itself, okay? So I'm not just talking influencers, I'm also talking businesses. There's lots of crypto businesses that focus on, you know, tacking themselves to the project itself, and then, you know, just pretty much as soon as that news drops, they're onto it, okay? Obviously, you're gonna get the news first by following the project, but this is just in case you miss it, okay? And so what I would recommend you do is come to lunacrush.com. It's a social metrics website. Scroll down to, once you click on a project, scroll down and you'll see top quant influencers or top whatever project influencers, and don't just click on the top 1, 2, or 3. You want to actually go through, if you can, and, you know, look them up on Twitter, because you don't want to follow someone who covers a wide variety of projects, because the chances are they're getting the news off the people that we're trying to follow first, okay? And that's people like Mason, for example. He covers a whole bunch of projects. So I think Nagato is a really good influencer, but he would sort of fall into that category. I don't know any of these other guys apart from Greg, wherever he is. But so you want to make sure you definitely follow the right people, okay? And so this is very important, again, because you're going to kind of like give yourself a safety net just in case that news doesn't come out. Plus, also, they're the type of people to be so involved in the project. They're the ones putting the pieces together for you, and they'll come out with tweets, threads, so on and so forth, okay? Now, once you've done that, I'm going to say go one step further. On the same Twitter account, follow the people in charge, but very specific people. Number 1 is the CEO or the founder or founders, right? Now, obviously, this is quite important because they might be the ones announcing the really big news, just like Gilbert did with the BIS partnership. But you also want to follow the 2 other important people in charge. Now, obviously, there's lots of people involved in a business structure, but I'm going to argue you want to definitely follow the CTO and CMO, or the Chief Technology Officer and the Chief Marketing Officer, just in case. Now, Andrew here is the CMO or Chief Marketing Officer. This guy obviously does the marketing, so he might be more involved with pushing out smaller notifications and things like that. Whereas Peter over here, he's the CTO, okay? Now, it doesn't always work like this. The CTO is not going to always publish technology news, but in some of your mid to small projects, obviously Quant's a very polished, top end project. You know, they're going to be more involved in their actual job and be more active on Twitter, okay? So that's some alpha, I believe. You guys should definitely do this for Twitter. That's a non-negotiable, okay? And again, this doesn't require much time. An hour, literally less than an hour sometimes. If you have a small amount of projects, I wouldn't recommend anything over 15 projects, really. You should get through this in about less than an hour, okay? You get quite proficient at it. And the next thing I'm going to say you should do, and this is kind of, again, a bit of a safety net, is follow the blog. Now, following the blog also encompasses the Medium as well. Now, Medium is just like a place where anyone can pretty much write blogs, right? So, but essentially a lot of these better projects will have their own blogs on their own websites. And as you can see down here, you can subscribe to it, okay? So make sure as well, it is an email address that you're not going to get, again, spammed. You don't want to get it filtered out. You want to have a specific crypto or a specific email dedicated to just this, one or the other, okay? Don't just use your everyday email, okay? And again, with the Medium, to tackle on a bit more information here, Quant Network doesn't actually have a dedicated Medium, right? Because they have their own blog on their own website. Why would they? But you have Gilbert here again. Gilbert hasn't posted for a very long time, so this is kind of outdated as well. You can also look up, you know, Quant Network and then find who else might pop up. I know SEC or SEQ, this guy over here pops up quite a bit. He doesn't really use it anymore, but he was actually a really good source in me finding information out on Quant when I was doing the heavy research on it, okay? So there's some more information. And lastly, I want to finish up by saying, if they have a podcast, now Quant doesn't, I'm going to use Hedera because I love Hedera, honestly. These guys are fantastic. They literally document everything, okay? And they have their own gossip about gossip. I love that play on words. Podcast, which you can go ahead and follow. I think it's up here. Yeah, Resources Podcast. Subscribe for the updates, and season 4, I think, is happening right now. I think it's hosted by Zenobia. And yeah, they just do everything, guys. And the real beautiful part about all of this is you're going to learn. You're going to learn a lot about the project itself, which is massive, okay? Because someone's going to ask you about something and you're going to be, boom, on the dot. You know what is happening within the project. And then you can go ahead and obviously take advantage of any news that comes out. Boom, you're on it straight away. You can buy in, make some quick gains. I mean, earning an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a week from a quick pump, who's going to complain about that? No one. I don't care how wealthy you really are, okay? So guys, pay attention. This by far is the #1 most important thing, because if you're out of tap with this, if you're not synced up to your projects, all of them, remember, at least the ones that you're primarily focused at dollar cost averaging in, the rest is going to go out of whack. Trust me. So that'll about do it. But ultimately, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. I hope at the bare minimum, you at least learned one thing new. And if you have, please do me a huge favor, click the like on the video. These videos, believe it or not, do take a long time to create and ultimately allows me to keep serving you on a daily basis. All right, guys. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.